You ever have one of those nights where something ordinary turns into a story you'll never stop thinking about? That's how it began for me, a half-finished report, a tired mind, and a call I still wish I'd ignored. I was 3 lines into the incident report when Jasper's voice cut through the static on my radio, high-pitched, tight with strain that made my pen freeze mid-sentence. "Julian, I need backup at the Blackwood trailhead. We've got a situation." The clock on the wall read 34/7. I'd been planning to finish early, maybe grill something half-decent for once instead of microwaving another frozen dinner. But the tone in his voice killed that plan instantly. In 6 months working my sector, I'd never heard him sound like that. Not nervous, he was always a little nervous, but rattled. "What's the nature of the situation?" I asked. "There's a woman screaming for help, deep in the woods, maybe half a mile past the main marker. She sounds really hurt, Julian." Standard missing hiker procedure, I told myself. Someone wanders off trail, slips down a slope. Happens all the time. Copy that. Any visual on the subject? Negative. I can hear her, but I can't see her. She's too far into the trees. Then silence. Long enough for me to notice the hum of the lights above my desk. When he came back on, his voice had dropped lower, uncertain. "Julian, something's not right about this." Those words hit harder than they should have. Jasper was young. 24, broad-shouldered, blonde, built like someone who used to play rugby, but he wasn't dramatic. If he said something felt wrong, I listened. "Explain, not right." "I don't know how to explain it, just, can you get out here, please?" That sealed it. I set down my pen and reached for my gear. "On my way. Maintain your position. Don't attempt contact." "Copy." I grabbed my rifle from the safe, checked the chamber, slung it over my shoulder. It felt heavier than usual, though I couldn't say why. Maybe the thought of hiking into dense woods to extract someone injured. The drive to Blackwood took 18 minutes, plenty of time for doubts to crawl in. Probably a lost day hiker taking photos, fell, broke something. The scream sounded bad, sure, but panic amplifies things. Still, his words replayed in my head. "Something's not right about this, Dadachi. I'd said the same thing once, 15 years ago. Different forest, same job." Same feeling creeping up my spine. I shoved the memory away before it could take shape. The Blackwood trailhead waited at the end of a gravel road winding through pine forest. Jasper's patrol SUV sat crooked in the small parking lot. He was pacing beside it, radio in hand, shoulders rigid. When he spotted me, relief hit his face like sunlight. "Thank God you're here," he said. "It's been going on for over an hour now. The screaming? Yeah. Same spot, same words. She keeps calling for help, but nothing changes." His usual easy grin was gone, replaced by that 1,000-yard stare people get when something defies logic. "Walk me through it," I said. "I heard her around 2030. Sounded like she was in real distress. I called out, asked her to keep talking so I could find her, but she just kept repeating the same thing. 'Help me, please help me, I'm hurt.' Same words, same tone, over and over. A chill slid through me. Real pain doesn't repeat like that. It stumbles, breaks, begs differently each time. "You said it never moves?" "Not once. Always the same direction, same distance, like she's stuck." As if on cue, the voice drifted through the trees, female pleading, but wrong somehow. Each phrase fell in perfect rhythm, no variation at all. Jasper looked at me. "People don't talk like that when they're really hurt, do they?" I couldn't answer, because deep down I already knew. 15 years ago I'd heard that same voice, and I remembered what we found when we followed it. The forest swallowed sound the moment we stepped off the trail. The air felt thicker, quieter, like the woods were holding their breath. Jasper led, flashlight cutting narrow tunnels of pale light through the trees, and I followed close behind, rifle low but ready. The forest floor was soft beneath our boots, layers of fallen leaves, damp and dense, muting each step. Pine needles clung to our pants as we moved. The air carried that sharp scent of sap and decay, clean and foul at once. I scanned the tree line, every flicker of movement setting my nerves on edge. After 15 years, I still hadn't learned how to silence the part of my brain that whispered, "Something's watching you." Jasper had turned his radio volume low, a smart call. The faint hiss of static barely reached me, but it was there, like the forest was breathing through the speaker. He was doing well, all things considered. Young rangers tended to talk to fill the silence. Jasper just listened. That told me he understood something I hadn't needed to explain. Sometimes the thing you're tracking might be tracking you back. We walked for maybe 20 minutes before I started thinking about the timeline. An hour of screaming before Jasper called it in. 10 minutes of silence before I arrived. Another 20 for me to reach him. Then this hike. If someone was truly hurt, they'd have passed out or gone quiet by now. But that voice hadn't faded. It was pacing us, steady as a metronome. "Stop!" Jasper whispered suddenly, hand raised. I froze. Only the small click of his flashlight echoed as he switched it off. The dark closed in like a curtain. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of our breathing. Then, faint but unmistakable, "Help me, please! Someone help me!" The voice came from deeper in the woods, maybe a quarter mile ahead. Female, middle-aged, terrified, but wrong in ways you couldn't explain, only feel. The rhythm, the precision, each syllable perfectly timed, identical in pitch and tone. 30 seconds passed. "Help me, please. Someone help me." Exactly the same. My skin prickled. Jasper turned to me, eyes wide. He didn't have to say it. He heard it too, the pattern that no human throat could keep up for hours. I motioned him closer, whispering, "Count the intervals." He nodded, focused, eyes flicking between the darkness and his watch. Another 30 seconds, the voice again, then again. Perfect rhythm, perfect mimicry. I leaned close, voice low. "We're not dealing with a person." His face shifted, fear, disbelief, the kind of look that comes when you realize your world just got bigger and stranger than you ever wanted. "What do you mean?" he whispered. Before I could answer, I heard something new, not the voice, something beneath it. A rustle in the undergrowth, soft but deliberate, maybe 50 yards away, too heavy for a fox, too controlled for a deer. It was moving parallel to us, keeping pace. The voice called again. The rustling stopped. 15 years fell away in an instant. A younger me, same woods, same sound, same unease. My partner's voice in my ear, calm but tight. Just sound bouncing off the trees, echoes, don't move through brush. I turned to Jasper, my words barely more than breath. "Stay close, don't respond to it, no matter what it says." His hand hovered over his radio, but he didn't speak. Smart kid. The woods felt alive now, every shadow leaning closer, every branch whispering something I didn't want to hear. The voice echoed again, the same mechanical plea. "Help me! Please help me!" And this time, it was closer. The air grew colder, heavy enough to taste. The hairs on my arms stood up like static before a storm. Jasper swallowed hard. "Julian," he whispered, "what is that?" I adjusted my rifle, keeping it low but ready. "Something that knows how to sound human," I said, "but isn't." We moved slowly, flashlights dimmed, breaths held between steps. The forest ahead looked the same in every direction, endless walls of pine and oak, branches tangled overhead like black veins against the moonlight. Yet somewhere in that maze, something was calling to us, wearing a woman's voice like a mask. Jasper stayed close, his flashlight trembling slightly in his hand. The beam cut through mist that seemed thicker now, as if the woods themselves exhaled smoke. I kept my rifle steady, angled down but ready. The call came again, softer this time, almost pleading. "Please, help me." It sounded closer, too close. Jasper turned his light toward the sound, but I caught his wrist. "No," I whispered, "let it come to us." Then, movement, a figure stepping from behind a tree about 30 feet away, a woman. Pale skin, long hair tangled with leaves, torn flannel hanging from her shoulders. Her eyes caught the light just enough to reflect silver. Jasper's breath hitched. "Oh my God, she's alive!" "Hold," I said. The woman stumbled forward, barefoot on the cold ground. She moved strangely, her limbs bending a half second too late like a puppet on invisible strings. "Please, help me," she repeated. The same tone, same inflection. Every muscle in my body screamed to pull back, but I stood still. I'd seen this before, or something like it. She stopped 10 feet away. The wind died. No insects, no sound but her voice as she tilted her head. "Why didn't you come sooner, Julian?" My chest tightened. Jasper shot me a confused glance. "How does she know your name?" I didn't answer. "Julian," the voice said again. "My name, now in my voice. Perfectly matched, down to the breath." Then she smiled. The movement broke the spell. The woman, or whatever she was, didn't chase. She simply stood there, head cocked, listening. Then, as if on cue, she turned and walked backward into the dark, step by perfect step, vanishing into the trees. Jasper's hands were shaking. What the hell was that? I didn't have a clean answer. Something that learns, something old. He swallowed. "You've seen it before." "Once," I admitted. 15 years ago. It mimics the last sound it hears before it kills." He stared at me, waiting for a laugh that didn't come. When he realized I was serious, his face went pale. We stood there in silence, listening. No more footsteps, no more voice, just the whisper of leaves brushing in the wind. Then the radio on Jasper's belt crackled. Static, faint at first, then sharp. Out of the distortion came my own voice. "Jasper, stay where you are." He froze. I reached for the radio, yanking it off his belt. The transmission repeated, my tone exact. "Jasper, stay where you are." I turned off the device and shoved it into my jacket. "It's close," I said. "Should we go back?" I hesitated. Every instinct screamed yes, but something else, a smaller, colder voice, said no. If we left now, it would follow us back to the station. If we ended it here, maybe it would stay buried. "We go forward," I said finally, quietly. The path ahead narrowed, tree trunks packed so tightly that light barely slipped through. Mist coiled low along the ground. We followed a faint trail of prints, bare feet pressed into mud, leading deeper toward the heart of the forest. Behind us, the radio turned itself back on. Static hissed. Then, "Please, help me." Jasper turned, terrified. "It's playing itself." "No," I said softly. "It's listening." The trail vanished after another 100 yards. The mud turned to damp moss, soft and spongy under our boots, swallowing our footprints as soon as we made them. The air here was colder, too cold for mid-October, and the fog had thickened into a gray wall that blurred the trees into silhouettes. Every sound seemed close, yet came from nowhere. Jasper's flashlight flickered once, then steadied. He glanced at me nervously. "You sure this is the right way?" I scanned the ground. The faint impressions of bare feet were still visible, but lighter now, like whoever or whatever we were following was getting lighter with every step. "Yeah," I said quietly. "We're still on our trail." He nodded but didn't look convinced. The forest around us pressed tighter, branches clawing at our sleeves. Somewhere above, an owl hooted. A normal sound, maybe the last normal thing in miles. I adjusted my rifle strap, forcing my breathing steady. "Remember," I said, "no matter what you hear, don't answer it." He gave a short nod, the kind people give when they understand but are still afraid. We moved another 50 feet before it started again. The voice came from behind us this time. "Julian!" "Jasper, stop!" Jasper spun around, flashlight cutting through mist. "Nothing there, just gray. It's trying to hurt us," I whispered. "Keep moving." The ground began to slope downward into a shallow ravine. Trees grew denser here, their trunks black with age and moisture. The fog clung low, and somewhere beneath it came a steady dripping sound. Water maybe, or something heavier. Jasper stepped carefully. "Feels like the air's thicker here." "It is," I said. "Same spot we found the tracks 15 years ago. I was with Officer Lang then." He hesitated. "The one who disappeared?" I nodded. "Never found his body, only his radio." That quieted him. We kept walking until we reached the bottom of the ravine. There, half buried in mud, stood an old wooden post, splintered and leaning at an angle. Carved into it was a single word, worn almost smooth by weather. "Listen!" Jasper knelt to inspect it, brushing moss away. "Someone carved this." "A warning?" "Maybe," I said, "or an invitation." The air shifted. Every sound in the forest dropped out. The wind, the dripping, even our breathing seemed muffled. Then, faintly, from somewhere ahead came a low humming. It wasn't a human voice. It was deeper, resonant, like the vibration of a cello string plucked in the dark. It grew louder, wrapping around us until I could feel it in my chest. Jasper clamped his hands over his ears. "It's inside my head," he gasped. "Don't listen," I ordered, pulling him by the arm. "Focus on my voice." The hum broke into fragments, snatches of words, whispers layered over each other. "Julian, you left him 15 years. My blood went cold." "Lang," I whispered. "It's using his voice." Jasper's eyes widened. "It knows your past? It remembers everything it's heard," I said. "That's how it survives." The whispers grew louder, circling us. A dozen voices now. Men, women, even children, repeating lines of fear, apology, pain. "Please, help me. Don't leave me here. Julian, run!" The ground trembled. The mist pulsed with the sound, rippling like disturbed water. I grabbed Jasper's shoulder and pushed him toward higher ground. "Move!" We scrambled uphill, roots snagging our boots, branches tearing at our jackets. The voices followed, echoing through the trees in perfect synchronization. Then suddenly, silence. Jasper collapsed near a fallen log, gasping for breath. "It stopped," he whispered. I scanned the tree line. Nothing moved. Even the fog seemed frozen. Then I saw it, half hidden behind the trees. A figure, tall and thin, its face obscured, its skin blending with bark and shadow. It stood perfectly still, watching us. Jasper saw it too. "What is that?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. The thing raised its head slightly, and I realized with a cold certainty that it wasn't looking at us. It was listening. Jasper's flashlight beam wavered as he caught his breath. The silence pressed on us like a living thing. My pulse thudded so loudly it almost counted as noise. I turned slowly, scanning the tree line again, but the shape I'd seen was gone, if it had ever been there at all. "Julian," Jasper whispered, "what was that?" "I don't know," I said, though part of me did. My voice sounded dry, hollow. "We need to keep moving before it decides to come closer." He swallowed hard, nodded, and forced his shaking hands to steady the light. The fog thinned slightly as we climbed, and the slope flattened into a small clearing littered with pine needles and damp leaves. My boots sank an inch into soft ground. It smelled like rot and rain. At the center stood something I hadn't noticed before, an old ranger signpost, its lettering faded beyond recognition. A small iron bell hung from a rusted hook beside it. Jasper stepped forward. "This part of the park's not even on our map." "It used to be," I murmured, "before they closed the lower trails. Too many disappearances." "Disappearances?" 3 hikers in '98, 2 kids in 2005, then Lang in 2010. My throat tightened around that last name. The air vibrated faintly again. I caught a shimmer through the fog like light bouncing off water deep among the trees. The hum was returning, fainter now, but purposeful, directional. "Let's head that way," I said, motioning to the left. "Toward it. If we keep running, it'll follow anyway." We advanced, every step deliberate. Fallen branches snapped beneath our boots, echoing far louder than they should have. The hum swelled into something almost melodic, a distant chorus breathing in rhythm with our steps. "Julian," Jasper said quietly, "you said it remembers everything it's heard." "What does that mean?" I hesitated before answering. When Lang disappeared, the voice we heard, it wasn't random. It repeated his last words after he was gone, word for word. I don't think it mimics. It collects. Collects? Voices, maybe souls. Jasper exhaled shakily. "You think it's alive? I think it's old, older than this forest." We reached the shimmer. It wasn't water. It was a depression in the ground about 10 feet wide, filled with mist that seemed to glow faintly from within. Around the rim lay objects half buried in soil, pieces of cloth, rusted metal, a torn shoe. A ranger's badge glinted near the edge. "Lang's badge!" I crouched, brushing away dirt until the engraved initials appeared. "Ah!" He made it this far. Jasper stood motionless beside me, his face pale. "Julian, look!" Across the hollow, shadows began to form, outlines of people, faint and flickering like reflections in disturbed water. One of them stepped forward, taking shape in jerky movements. A man in a ranger's uniform, face gray and eyes empty. Lang! My rifle felt useless in my hands. "That's not him," I whispered. "It's what's left." The figure raised a trembling arm, pointing toward me. Its voice came out fragmented, distorted by static. "Julian, you shouldn't have left me." Jasper stumbled backward. "Jesus Christ." The other shapes moved too, whispering, their words overlapping in desperate murmurs. The fog brightened, pulsing with their rhythm. I forced myself to my feet. "Back away slowly. Don't turn your back on them." We retreated step by step until we reached the tree line again. The hollow glowed brighter now, like an open wound in the earth. Jasper's voice shook. "What do we do now?" I looked back once, seeing Lang's shadow dissolve into the mist. "We get out of here!" Before it remembers our names, too. We didn't stop running until the trees thinned and the slope leveled out into a narrow ridge. My legs burned, lungs raw from the cold air. Jasper stumbled behind me, clutching his side. The fog up here wasn't as thick, just thin ribbons curling between trunks like smoke from an invisible fire. "Julian," he panted. "What was that back there?" "That thing in the mist?" I kept my eyes on the trail ahead. "I told you, it remembers voices. But I didn't tell you the rest." He straightened, eyes searching my face for some kind of explanation. "The rest?" I hesitated, weighing how much truth he could handle. "When Tom and I found Lang's badge 15 years ago, we also found something else. A clearing full of bones. Dozens. Maybe more." Jasper went still. "Human?" "Mostly," I said quietly. "Some didn't look right." The wind picked up suddenly, threading through the branches with a low whistle. The sound made the hairs rise on the back of my neck. I raised a hand, motioning him to listen. A faint sound echoed from below the ridge footsteps. Not ours. Too light, too rhythmic. Someone or something was pacing in the fog beneath us. "Stay low," I whispered. We crouched, peering over the edge. Through the gray veil of mist, I caught glimpses of movement, figures walking in slow, deliberate circles. At first, I thought they were people, maybe search volunteers or hikers who'd wandered too far. But the way they moved, smooth, too controlled, no variation in pace made my stomach knot. Jasper leaned closer. "How many do you see?" "4. No, 5. They circled a small patch of ground where the fog glowed faintly from within like coals under ash. I raised my binoculars. Their faces were pale, indistinct, features washed out as if they'd been erased. Each wore dark clothing, soaked and clinging to bodies that looked wrong, limbs too long, spines slightly bent. Jasper's breath hitched. "Are they alive?" I lowered the binoculars. "I don't think so." The figures stopped suddenly, all 5 turning their heads toward the ridge at the exact same time. "Get down!" I hissed, pulling Jasper flat to the ground. My heart slammed to my chest. They'd seen us, or sensed us. We waited, barely breathing. The forest felt like it was holding its breath too. Then came that sound again, the voice. "Help me! Please! Someone help me!" But now, it wasn't distant. It came from every direction at once, echoing from the fog, from the trees, from inside my skull. Jasper clutched his ears. "Make it stop! Don't listen!" I said, grabbing his arm. "They're trying to pull you in." He looked at me, eyes wet with fear. "Pull me in. Once you answer, it knows your voice. Then it can wear it." A scream cut through the woods, not the recorded repetition this time, but raw, real, human. Jasper's head jerked toward the sound. "That was a person." I caught his sleeve before he could move. "No!" "That's how it starts." The scream changed mid-note, warping into static, then into my own voice calling from the fog. "Jasper, this way!" He froze. "Julian!" "I'm right here," I shouted, shaking him. "That's not me." He blinked, trembling, confusion breaking through panic. The false voice called again, softer now, pleading. "Please, it's cold." I hauled him to his feet. "We move." Now. We ran, crashing through the underbrush, ignoring the branches clawing at our faces. The fog twisted around us, whispering fragments of words, memories, voices it had stolen long ago. When we finally burst into a clearing, the moonlight caught us. I turned, rifle raised. Nothing followed, but the last echo drifted through the night air, almost tender. We didn't stop until the ridge gave way to a narrow valley where the pines grew thick and tall, their branches heavy with dew. My hands were shaking too hard to steady the flashlight. Jasper tripped twice on the uneven ground, breath ragged, but neither of us dared speak until the fog thinned enough for the stars to reappear. "There," I said, pointing ahead. A faint orange glow flickered between the trees. A lantern, or maybe a fire. Jasper hesitated. "You think it's one of them?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but we can't stay out here." We crept closer, every step deliberate, until the outline of a small cabin came into view. The structure was old logs dark with age, roof sagging under moss. The windows were boarded except one where a dim light leaked through a crack. I motioned for silence and pushed the door gently. It creaked, but to my surprise, it opened. Inside, the air smelled of damp wood and rusted metal. Someone had lived here once, long ago. Jasper swept his flashlight around. "There's a stove, old tools, and... Wait, look!" He pointed to the far wall. Carved into the wood were dozens of symbols, circles, crosses, lines intersecting in strange patterns. Beneath them, etched deeper, were words, "Don't answer the echoes." I swallowed hard. Someone knew. Jasper stepped closer, tracing the carvings with his fingertips. Maybe Lang, or whoever was here before him. Before I could answer, a floorboard popped behind us. The light flickered once, then steadied. "No movement, probably just settling," I said, though I didn't believe it. We found a lantern and a few cans of food that looked only a decade expired. Good enough. Jasper slumped into a chair, exhausted. "We should rest, just for an hour." "Yeah," I said, lowering the rifle beside me. "I'll keep watch." He nodded, pulling his jacket tight and closing his eyes. I stared out the narrow crack of the window, the forest beyond bathed in weak moonlight. For a while, there was nothing but the steady creak of trees. Then I saw it, movement. A shadow glided between the trunks, tall and deliberate. It stopped, facing the cabin. My breath caught. The silhouette was human-shaped, but wrong in its stillness. "Jasper," I whispered, "wake up!" He stirred. "What is it? Something's out there!" He joined me at the window. The figure was gone. Only fog remained, drifting like breath. "You saw it too, right?" he asked quietly. "Yeah." Dull thud sounded from beneath the floorboards. We both froze. Another, closer this time. Something moving under the cabin. Jasper grabbed a poker from beside the stove. "Tell me that's not—" The floor groaned, then split slightly near the center. A faint light glimmered from below, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. I crouched, careful, and brushed away dust. A trap door. The handle was cold metal, smeared with old dirt. "Julian, don't!" Jasper whispered. "But I already was!" The door lifted with a dry crack, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. A faint hum drifted up, electrical, rhythmic, alive. I looked at Jasper. If Lang came this far, maybe he left something down there. He swallowed. Or maybe that's where it started. I took a breath, lantern trembling in my hand. Only one way to find out. As I stepped onto the first stair, the fog outside pressed against the window, thick and deliberate, as if trying to watch us. And from below came a whisper, soft and familiar. "Julian, you finally came back." The air that seeped from the open trap door was cold, metallic, and ancient, like the breath of something buried too long. My lantern quivered in my grip, its light flickering across the narrow wooden stairs, vanishing into black. Jasper hesitated behind me. "Julian, if we go down there, we might not come back." I nodded, but my curiosity outweighed the fear. "We can't stop now. We've come too far to turn back." He sighed, clutching the poker like a lifeline. "Fine, but if anything moves, I'm not asking questions." Each step creaked as we descended, the sound hollow and distant. The deeper we went, the thicker the air became, damp with earth and something faintly electrical. The lantern light trembled across stone walls lined with rusted pipes. At the bottom waited a corridor, long and narrow, the floor slick with condensation. Strange symbols. Those same circles and intersecting lines we'd seen upstairs were painted along the walls, some glowing faintly under the light. "What is this place?" Jasper whispered. "It's not part of the cabin's foundation," I said quietly. "Someone built this later." We followed the tunnel until it opened into a wide chamber. Tables stood in rows, covered with decaying papers, glass jars, and broken machinery. On one table, beneath a cracked bulb that still buzzed faintly, lay an old recorder. Jasper pressed a button, and static filled the room before a voice broke through. A man's voice, tired, cracking under fear. "This is Dr. Lang. If anyone finds this, they've learned how to follow sound. They mimic. They echo. Don't listen when they call your name. It's not them." The message ended with a screech, then silence. Jasper stared at the recorder. Lang was here. I nodded, scanning the tables. Among the clutter, a journal lay open. The ink had bled, but a few words were legible. "The door beneath the pines. The hum grows stronger when they're near." "The hum," I murmured. We heard it upstairs. Suddenly, the lantern dimmed. A low vibration rippled through the floor, faint but rhythmic. Jasper's eyes went wide. "Julian, that's it. That's the sound he was talking about." The light sputtered out completely. We were plunged into darkness. Then footsteps, soft, measured, coming from the tunnel behind us. "Who's there?" I called, voice unsteady. No reply, only the echo of my words bouncing back, warped slightly. "Julian!" The voice came again, faint and trembling, but it was mine. Jasper gripped my arm. "That's not you." I felt the air shift, cold brushing the back of my neck. "Keep the light on," I whispered. He fumbled with the lantern, sparks catching until a weak glow returned. The corridor was empty, but our footprints in the dust now had a third set leading straight toward us. Something was coming. We backed away slowly toward the staircase when the hum grew louder. The wall seemed to pulse with it. From the far end of the tunnel, a shadow stretched forward, long and thin, its shape flickering like a reflection in water. "Run!" Jasper shouted. We sprinted up the stairs, the boards groaning beneath our weight. The whisper followed, closer now, echoing my name again and again, mocking, desperate. "Julian, come back!" We burst into the cabin, slamming the trapdoor shut. I shoved the stove over it, panting hard. For a moment, silence. Then a knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps from beneath the floor. Jasper's voice trembled. "Tell me that's settling wood." I stared at the trapdoor, the lantern's flame trembling between us. "No," I said softly, "that's something that remembers us." The sound beneath the floor finally faded, but the silence that followed was worse. It wasn't peaceful, just waiting. Every few seconds I could hear faint creaks like something shifting its weight below us. Jasper sat on the edge of the cot, his hands gripping the poker, eyes locked on the trapdoor. "We can't stay here," he said quietly. "You heard what Lang said." "They follow sound." "I know," I replied, checking my rifle, "but if we go out now, we'll be running blind. The fog's thick again." He ran a trembling hand through his hair. "Then we're trapped, Julian, stuck between what's outside and what's below." I didn't answer. The lantern was burning low, the flame shrinking until the shadows reclaimed most of the cabin. My heartbeat filled the silence. Every noise seemed amplified, the pop of cooling wood, the faint whisper of wind. But then I realized it wasn't the wind. Someone was calling. "Julian!" It came from outside, soft and desperate, echoing faintly through the trees. My chest tightened. It was her voice. "Anna," I breathed. Jasper's head snapped up. "Don't," he warned. "It's not her." But it sounded so real. The same tone, the same rhythm. She was the reason I came this far, the reason I couldn't stop. I stepped toward the window, the fog glowing faintly under moonlight. "Julian, please," the voice pleaded again. "Help me." I felt Jasper's hand on my shoulder. "You know what Lang said. They mimic. They'll say anything to get you out there." I turned away from the glass, forcing my voice steady. "Then we find proof. If she's alive, I'm not leaving her." Before he could argue, the lantern flickered once and died completely. Darkness swallowed the room. We froze. Then, another sound. Footsteps, soft and deliberate, circling the cabin. The boards outside creaked, one slow step at a time. Jasper whispered, "There's more than one." The door handle rattled. I aimed my rifle, breath shallow. "Stay quiet." The door shook harder, wood groaning under pressure. Then, without warning, everything stopped. Silence again, thick, suffocating. For a moment I thought it was over. Then a voice came through the wall, inches from my ear. "Julian, let me in." I stumbled back, heart hammering. It wasn't Anna anymore. It was me, my own voice speaking in perfect rhythm. Jasper swore under his breath. "It's learning." Something heavy scraped against the roof. Dust fell from the rafters. I looked up just as a pale hand slid across the cracked window pane, thin, almost translucent, fingers dragging slowly down the glass. Jasper grabbed my arm. "Basemen are outside! Choose now! Outside!" I said. At least we can see them coming. We bolted for the back door, throwing it open into a sea of mist. The forest looked different now, branches bent unnaturally, as if straining toward us. The air hummed faintly, vibrating with invisible tension. We ran through the trees, our lights barely cutting through the fog. Behind us came whispers, dozens of voices overlapping, calling our names again and again. "Julian! Jasper! Come back!" Jasper tripped, crashing into the mud. I pulled him up, my lungs burning. "Keep moving!" The whispers grew louder, merging into one drawn-out wail that seemed to shake the ground. When I looked back, I saw them shapes in the mist, tall and thin, walking without sound, their faces blurred as if smeared through glass. We didn't stop until the trees thinned and a faint silver light appeared ahead, an old road cutting through the forest. We stumbled onto it, gasping. Jasper bent over, clutching his knees. "If that's what's been hunting us," he said between breaths, "then Lang didn't just study them, he trapped them here." I looked back into the fog where faint figures still shifted at the tree line. Then maybe he also left a way to stop them. We followed the cracked road until the forest began to thin, revealing a clearing swallowed by fog. At the far end stood what looked like a small concrete building, half buried beneath tangled roots and moss. A faded sign hung crooked above the entrance, barely legible beneath years of decay. The word research was all that remained. Jasper wiped the sweat from his face. "This must be Lang's old facility," he said, voice trembling. He mentioned it in his notes. I nodded, scanning the perimeter. The air felt wrong here, denser somehow, humming faintly like static against my skin. "Stay close," I warned. "If this is where he worked, it might also be where it started." The metal door resisted when I tried it, but a firm shove broke the rusted latch. The smell that rolled out was thick with mildew and something faintly chemical. We stepped inside. Dust hung in the air, swirling through the narrow beam of my flashlight. Rows of broken equipment lined the walls. Monitors shattered, papers scattered across the floor, every surface marked with black stains that looked too organic to be age. The deeper we went, the colder it got. At the center of the main room stood a series of glass chambers, tall cylinders filled with murky fluid. Most were empty, but one still held something inside. A figure, or what was left of one, suspended in liquid, skin pale and distorted. Its mouth hung open in a silent scream. Jasper staggered back, covering his mouth. "Jesus Christ! What the hell was Lang doing here?" I didn't answer. My attention was on a metal table nearby. Scattered across it were pages from Lang's field journal, yellowed and water-stained but still readable. I brushed off the dust and began scanning the text. "Replication phenomena observed in auditory form. Subjects exhibit ability to mimic distress calls. Vocal accuracy exceeds human capability. Objective, containment, or communication, undetermined, Dottis." Another page was clipped beneath it, written hastily in pencil. "They don't just mimic sound, they mimic intent. It's learning. It wants to understand what fear is." A low hum started up behind us, faint but steady, like an electrical current building. I turned toward the sound. One of the empty glass chambers was vibrating. Jasper whispered, "Julian, it's turning on." The chamber lights flickered, bathing the room in pale green. Bubbles rose through the fluid inside, and something began to take shape within it, slowly forming like a reflection pulling itself together. The outline looked human. "Back away," I ordered, my voice shaking despite myself. We moved toward the exit, but the hum deepened, resonating through the floor. The chamber glass cracked once, twice, then shattered outward. The fluid spilled across the tile, steaming where it touched the air. Something crawled out. Its skin was translucent, its limbs wrong, bending at impossible angles. It raised its head toward us, and when it spoke, it used my voice. "Julian, don't go!" Jasper fired his weapon. The report echoed through the hall, but the figure didn't flinch. It only tilted its head, as if studying us. Then, slowly, it began to smile. "Run!" I shouted. We sprinted down the corridor, past the rusted doors and broken lights. The floor trembled as something massive moved in the walls, following our steps. When we burst through the exit, the night air hit like a shock. We didn't stop running until the facility was nothing but a gray blur behind us. Jasper bent over, gasping, eyes wide with disbelief. "It used your voice," he said. "It knew you." I looked back at the fog curling from the doorway. "It doesn't just know me," I said quietly. "It remembers." The woods swallowed us as soon as we left the facility behind. The fog was thicker now, coiling through the trees like something alive. Every branch and shadow seemed to breathe, whispering fragments of sound that weren't quite voices but close enough to make my skin crawl. Jasper stumbled through the undergrowth beside me, still clutching his rifle tight to his chest. "Julian," he said, panting. "That thing! It spoke like you! How is that even possible?" "I don't know," I said, though part of me did. The same chill that had haunted me 15 years ago had returned, familiar and heavy. We need distance. It's learning every time it imitates. The farther we get, the better. Behind us, something cracked. A clean, deliberate snap of wood. Not random, not wind. Jasper froze. "It's following us. Keep moving," I whispered. "Don't stop." We pushed through a thicket, the branches scraping against our arms and faces. My flashlight beam flickered, catching glimpses of movement, something pale darting between trees. Too fast to see clearly, too close to ignore. When we reached a clearing, I motioned for Jasper to stop. The moonlight filtered through the fog, painting everything silver. For a moment there was silence. Then, from the opposite end of the clearing, a voice called out, "Julian! Jasper! Over here!" It was my voice again, not shouting this time, but calm, almost conversational. Jasper's face went white. "It's you," he whispered. "No," I said flatly. "It's it." The figure stepped out of the fog, a silhouette wearing my shape, my uniform, even my stance. It looked at us the way a reflection looks back, except this one smiled first. "Why are you running?" it asked. The cadence, the tone, it was perfect. Then its head tilted too far to the side, the way no human neck should bend. "You came to help me, remember?" Jasper raised his rifle, hand shaking. "What do we do? Don't engage. Just back away slowly," I said. But before we could move, a second voice echoed through the trees, this one high, desperate. A woman's cry, "Help me, please, someone help me!" The sound came from behind us, then to the right, then above. The forest itself seemed to mimic her pleas, the words bouncing from every direction until it was impossible to tell where they started. Jasper pressed his palms over his ears, trembling. "Make it stop, please, make it stop!" I grabbed his shoulder, forcing him to look at me. "Focus on my voice, just me. We get to the truck, and we leave, understand?" We started back the way we came, but the fog had shifted. The trees were wrong closer, unfamiliar. My internal compass spun uselessly. The forest itself seemed rearranged. Something brushed my arm, cold, wet, like a hand made of mist. I turned sharply, rifle raised, but saw nothing, only a shape retreating into the haze. Then Jasper screamed. He was on the ground, dragged backward by something half-seen. I fired twice into the fog, the shots lighting up shapes that moved too quickly to define. I lunged, grabbed Jasper's vest, and yanked with everything I had. Whatever held him let go, but not before I caught a glimpse, a face, or the idea of one pressing out of the fog, grinning like a shadow learning to smile. We ran again. I don't know for how long. The forest never seemed to end. Every few steps I could hear the imitation, our voices calling out, whispering, laughing softly. When we finally burst onto the road, the silence hit so suddenly it felt wrong. The fog lingered at the tree line, waiting. Jasper collapsed beside me, shaking violently. "We can't go back there," he said. "No," I agreed, staring at the fog. "But it can come to us." The road stretched ahead in eerie stillness, the night air thick with the smell of pine and wet soil. My lungs burned, each breath rasping as I tried to catch it. Jasper sat hunched beside the truck, arms wrapped around his knees, staring back toward the fog like it might follow us. "It's not coming out," he muttered, voice trembling. "Not yet," I said, scanning the tree line. "They never rush. They wait." The forest loomed beyond the ditch, every trunk a black pillar swallowed by haze. The imitation of my voice had gone silent, but silence wasn't safety. It was the pause before a storm. I checked the rifle, 3 rounds left. The radio on Jasper's belt hissed softly, a whisper of static. Then, "Julian, my name!" Stretched thin, almost tender. The voice came through the radio this time, my own tone, warped, too slow. Jasper flinched and ripped the device off his belt, throwing it into the dirt. It landed with a crack and went dead. "Tell me that was interference," he said. "It wasn't!" He stared at me, face pale, eyes hollow. Then what the hell was it? I wanted to give him something comforting, something that sounded like reason, but I'd run out of explanations a long time ago. "Something that's been here longer than us," I said. "Older than these woods. It learns, it listens, it uses what it hears." He swallowed hard. "So it knows us now." "Yes." The wind picked up, cold and sharp. I could feel it pressing from the forest's edge, like the trees were breathing out in unison. The fog rolled closer to the road, creeping forward in tendrils that reached across the gravel like fingers testing the boundary. I started the truck. The engine coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. For a second, that sound, pure, mechanical, human-made, felt like salvation. I slammed it into gear, gravel spitting beneath the tires as we pulled away. Jasper didn't speak for miles. The forest thinned, then vanished behind us, swallowed by distance and night. When he finally looked at me, his eyes were red-rimmed and lost. 15 years ago, he said quietly, "your partner. He never really got away, did he?" I kept my eyes on the road. No, he didn't. The truth sat between us like a weight. Tom had left the service, but the thing in the woods had followed him. I'd read about his disappearance years later, found drowned in a canal miles from home. No one could explain why. But I knew. We drove until the horizon lightened from black to gray, until the world felt a little less like a nightmare and more like morning. The ranger station came into view, empty, still. Inside, I turned on the lights. The hum of electricity was comforting in its banality. I wanted to believe that crossing that threshold meant we were safe again, but part of me knew better. The forest never truly lets go. Jasper sat down, staring at the floor. "What do we do now?" "Report it," I said automatically. But even as I said it, the words felt hollow. Who would believe us? Another lost hiker, another false alarm. The same cycle repeating. Outside, a crow called once harsh, broken. Then came another sound. "Help me! Please! Someone help me!" The words drifted faintly through the trees behind the station, exactly 30 seconds apart. Jasper's face went white again. "It can't be." I looked toward the sound, my hand tightening on the rifle. "It's never gone," I said. The voice called again, soft, perfect, and identical. "Help me! Please! Someone help me!" And for the first time in 15 years, I realized the forest wasn't echoing us. It was remembering. The forest is quiet now, too quiet. Weeks have passed since that night at Blackwood, and yet every time I close my eyes, I hear it, those same words, looping faintly behind my thoughts. "Help me! Please! Someone help me!" I tell myself it's just memory, trauma replaying through a tired mind. But memory doesn't carry through open windows at 2 in the morning. Memory doesn't pause and start again, 30 seconds apart, always from the same distance, no matter where I stand. They sealed off the trail after the report. Jasper's body was never recovered. Search teams combed the forest for a week, found no trace of him, just his radio half buried in the moss, still hissing with faint static. The official explanation says an animal attack. I didn't argue. How do you explain something that shouldn't exist? I moved out of the ranger housing near Pine Ridge a few days later. The new station's quieter, smaller, tucked deep into a different part of the range. I told myself I was done with Blackwood, done with things that mimic the sound of pain to feed on the ones who care enough to answer. But 2 nights ago, I took a drive, just to clear my head. I don't even remember deciding where to go, but when the trees started to look familiar, I knew. Blackwood doesn't forget the people who walked too far in. The sign was still there, nailed crooked to the post, faded letter spelling, "Trail closed." I should have turned around. I didn't. For a long time, I just stood there listening. The forest breathed, slow and patient. Then, faintly, it came again. The same voice, same words, same rhythm. "Help me! Please, someone help me!" Only this time, it wasn't coming from deep in the woods. It was behind me. When I turned, the trees were empty. My truck sat 20 feet away, door still open, engine idling. But the voice came again, closer, right beside my ear. I don't remember running. I just remember the forest swallowing the sound of the engine as I drove away, headlights cutting through endless dark. I don't go near the woods anymore, but sometimes, when the wind's just right, I still hear her, still calling.